Mexico, a country that exists purely out of financial benefit. It's disease ridden, the streets are filled with drugs and cartel members pushing their own agenda. And the Mexican citizens? Well, they are migrating here. And now they have a new president, nicknamed AMLO. One would assume this would mean reform and some type of advantage for the future of the country, but the truth is quite contradictory. The new president, AMLO, or Andre Manuel Lopez, grew up in Mexico, born to parents that owned a shop. He obviously witnessed the downfall of the country. I assume it was always a shithole, but just became worse. He was a Mexican political party state leader for quite some time, as well as a city mayor, until of course he resigned and ran for a bigger title, the presidency of Mexico. AMLO describes himself as a left-wing politician with progressive mixed with conservative type rhetoric. However, his critics describe him as a socialist and the next Hugo Chavez, the socialist communist dictator of Venezuela. Most Mexicans are oblivious to AMLO's policies and ideas, as I'm sure most of them can't even read. But those who can are against everything the president-elect stands for. To summarize the key policies, AMLO wants, quote, to renationalize the oil industry, halt all cooperation with U.S. immigration laws, give amnesty to the drug cartel, and boost farm subsidies, and remove multinational investment in agriculture, encourage mass migration by Mexicans to the U.S. while using remittances from workers in the U.S. to fuel Mexican growth. That was a lot of information, but let's break down the key points. Amnesty to drug cartels and mass migration. Okay, so essentially, AMLO wants to negotiate peace treaties out with drug cartels, give them a new life, and figure things out over a cup of coffee. I just want to point out that over the course of the presidential election, over 30 candidates have been murdered by the cartel. I wonder if AMLO and the Mexican cartel are together. It does seem pretty sketchy, or maybe they don't consider him as a threat. The Mexicans will have to decide. Furthermore, AMLO encouraging mass migration isn't going to make shit better for them, or us, especially us, as statistics already indicate. Quote, in 2016, 1.49 million foreign-born individuals moved to the United States, a 7% increase from the 1.38 million coming in 2015. Of course, which over 150,000 were Mexican individuals. Granted, not all are Mexicans, but the illegal immigrants are still coming in through the Mexican border. In addition to the rising Mexican refugee and asylum-seeking individuals, quote, the number of refugee applicants in Mexico rose by 150% at the end of 2016. Furthermore, there is this specific term, or this idea, or really belief, known as Reconquista, which essentially refers to the majority of Mexicans migrating to the United States and taking back the land once they ruled upon. Basically, reverting back to the pre-Mexican-American War, in which, might I add, the U.S. emerged not only victorious, but also generous, as they gave citizenship to Mexicans occupying the states or land back then, as well as gave money for the land. To further expand, AMLO basically is inciting mass migration and reconquista, which some leftist Mexican liberal is pushing ever more by basically stating that the treaty that was signed after the war is, quote, violating essential international legal norms, and that a legal case can be produced successfully. It sounds like the liberals we know back here, trying to cite some made-up flaw and trying to get some delusional bill/law in effect. And this, folks, is highlighting only two key points of AMLO's policies. Sounds like false hope to me. AMLO is a socialist who wants to sustain a communist dictatorship along with his cartel buddies. So poverty, illiteracy, drugs, famine, and crime can become even more pronounced. Speaking of crime, let's take a look at Mexico's crime stats, shall we? Quote, Mexico has registered a record number of murders in 2017, making it the deadliest year in the country's modern history, with an astounding total of 23,101 murder investigations open alone in the first 11 months of 2017 alone. I'm sure the number is higher. Mexico's homicide rate of 20.5 per 100,000 individuals in 2017 alone is alarming, although it is still lower than of Venezuela, which is 57. But I'm sure in the next few months it will rise as the socialist president starts to implement his big changes. To basically sum up, Mexico has elected a new president with very socialist ideas and policies, and is, according to his critics, the next Hugo Chavez, the dictator of Venezuela. From granting amnesty to cartel members to inciting a reconquista of sorts, AMLO is certainly someone to keep an eye on. The funny thing is, President Trump actually had a conversation with AMLO before the elections started, and from the looks of it, Mr. President is content with AMLO. I'm sure AMLO manipulated his rhetoric, as all socialists are good at doing. Only time will tell. Thankfully, we don't live in Mexico, but America will slowly become a shithole if we as the people don't take action. I say we build a wall and make America great again.